Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today.
Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Emily Ferrier, here to bring you some uplifting stories in these trying times. For our first story today, this 15-year-old girl is helping to protect some of California's most vulnerable people from the dangers of the novel coronavirus outbreaks. Shivy Sasha has rallied her fellow Honor Society students into helping her give away more than 250 low-cost sanitation kits to homeless shelters around Los Angeles. Each kit contains sanitizer, lotion, antibacterial soap, and handmade reusable face masks to help homeless people stay safe during the pandemic. Although Chorizo High School student has an impressive track record for charity work, she says that she was inspired to pursue this particular labor of love after hearing Governor Gavin Newsom's recent speech on addressing the state's homeless crisis. They don't have necessities right now that are crucial to remain clean and stay germ-free. It's important for people to step in and just do whatever they can, even if it's just one person, Shivy told CNN. Shivy since launched a GoFundMe campaign to raise additional funds for expanding her initiative outside of Los Angeles. The page has already raised more than $13,000 in 9 days. But a new generation of young activists has proved that teenagers are in fact deeply concerned with social, political, and environmental issues, and they're fully prepared to do something about them. Chief among them is environmental activist, 16 years old, Greta Thunberg, who's urged British politicians to listen to the scientists regarding climate change while speaking on BBC's Radio 4's program. So here are the 5 inspirational people who've had a massive impact on the world in their teen years. First, Greta Thunberg. Born in 2003, this Swedish teen activist has become a leading voice for climate change activism. In 2018, she came up with the idea for a school strike movement after staging her first solitary protest in August on the steps of Swedish Parliament in Stockholm. Since then, more than 1 million students have joined her by walking out of the classrooms to protest against climate change inaction. Since our leaders are behaving like children, we'll have to take the responsibility that they should have taken years ago, she told the UN Climate Change Summit last year. We have to understand what the older generation has dealt to us, what a mess they've created, and what we have to clean up and live with. We have to make our voices heard. Greta, who's been open about how her autism has shaped her activism, recently joined the Extinction Rebellion protests in London and gave a speech at the House of Commons. Malala Yousafzai. When she was 11, Malala wrote and published an anonymous diary about her life in Pakistan under Taliban rule, which quickly gained huge attention. Soon, she began to speak out more publicly about the need for girls to have proper access to education. But 3 years later, her life changed forever when, in retaliation for her activism, she was shot in the head by a gunman on a school bus. The assassination attempt didn't stop her, however, and her profile has only risen further since then. She appeared on the front cover of Time magazine, and in 2014 became the youngest person ever to win the Nobel Peace Prize. This award is not just for me. It's for those forgotten children who want education, Malala said in her acceptance speech. It's for those frightened children who want peace. It's for those voiceless children who want change. I'm here to stand up for their rights, to raise their voice. It's not a time to pity them. Emma Gonzalez. In February 2018, a gunman stormed Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, killing 17 people. But rather than be defeated by this tragic event, many of the Floridian teens who survived the shooting instead began a national campaign to end gun violence. Emma Gonzalez, then just 18, emerged as one of the leaders of this new movement and co-founded the gun control advocacy group Never Again MSD. In March 2018, she delivered a powerful speech at the March for Our Lives in Washington, D.C., when she read out the names of her dead classmates and then stood defiantly silent for 4 minutes, the length of time that it took the gunman to carry out his attack. Following the shooting and the campaigning from Emma to her fellow students, Florida lawmakers passed the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Act in March 2018, which raises the age to buy a firearm from 18 to 21 and requires a 3-day waiting period for most weapons. Jack Andreka. At the age of 15, U.S. high school student Jack Andreka invented what appeared to be a new, cheap way to detect pancreatic cancer. The teen, who won $75,000 at the 2012 Intel International Science and Engineering Fair for its creation, said he came up with the idea by reading free science papers he found online. The test, which is still undergoing feasible studies, is made up of a strip of filter paper covered in a solution of carbon nanotubes and a special antibody, according to Wired, that required a sixth of a drop of blood. However, some, including Jack himself, have been careful to point out that although his invention was an exciting development, it remains more of a proof of concept than a finished product. And Amika George, after reading about the charity, which usually provides mental products to girls in Africa, having to redirect products to Leeds because there were girls who couldn't afford them, Amika George decided that she had to do something to fight period poverty in the UK. Amika, who founded hashtag Free Periods when she was 17, organized a protest outside Downing Street which saw 2,000 people dressed in red demanding government take action. In the wake of this pressure, the UK government announced in March 2019 it would be funding free sanitary products in all English schools and colleges. These young teens are absolutely inspirational, and it's thrilling to see them changing the world. The younger generation is really taking it on themselves to correct messes that have been made in the past and to pave the way for a better future for us all. So kudos to them. It's pretty incredible. When we come back from the break, I assume that most of you are probably practicing social distancing right now. And we have some things to help alleviate your isolated feeling right now. so we're going to give you some of those things that you can do that have been keeping our spirits up, and hopefully you'll enjoy those. So we'll talk about that when we come back from the break. So don't go anywhere.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Before the break, we were talking about some of the incredible teens that are paving way for a better future. And now, if you're practicing social distancing, there are dozens of virtual animals to keep you company during your time at home. So I'm just going to give you a list of zoo and aquarium live streams that you can enjoy from home right now if you're needing a little pick-me-up. So first, if your thing is belugas, otters, and penguins, the Georgia Aquarium has a number of live streams videos which allow internet users to enjoy the daily goings-on of the facility's resident African penguins, beluga whales, sea otters, and barrier reef dwellers. So that's the Georgia Aquarium. You can go onto their website. The Monterey Bay Aquarium website also has marine live streams, although their website boasts a jellyfish live stream, which is very mesmerizing. So definitely check out that. There is a giant panda cam, Tian Tian and Mazing at the Smithsonian National Zoo in DC. Smithsonian Zoo in DC has a live stream there. If you are feeling particularly patriotic, there is a bald eagle nest cam, also in Washington, D.C. So the nesting of two bald eagles named Mr. President and First Lady. And check that out. In Texas, the Houston Zoo webcam allows you to check up on resident giraffes, and you can control the angle of the webcam, actually. So it's kind of like a choose-your-own-adventure webcam of the giraffe enclosure. If you want to watch hummingbirds, an anonymous California homeowner set up an online live stream for Bella, a hummingbird that has been returning to the same tree since 2005. So that live stream is bellahummingbird.com. There is a live stream from the Warrior Canine Connection, which allows you to admire puppies that are training to be service dogs for vets. So that's Warrior Canine Connection. If you want to admire the animals of Africa as a means for raising awareness on the problems of poaching, the Tembe live wildlife webcam monitors a popular watering hole that's often visited by elephants, giraffes, and buffalo in the bushlands of Africa. So that's the Tembe live wildlife webcam monitor. There is a senior dog stream, Old Friends Senior Dogs Home, at the Old Friends Senior Dogs Home. That's where you can take a look into the retirement home for elderly puppies. And if you want to see some critters from down under, the Melbourne Zoo recently kicked off their Animals at Home live stream initiative by installing active webcams in their lion, snow leopard, giraffe, and penguin enclosures. I'm sure you guys have already seen the Chicago Zoo video of the penguins wandering around the other side of the glass, checking things out. If you haven't, look at it. It is so cute. Other nice animal stories from this year. A Texas boy has helped rescue over 1,000 dogs from kill shelters. A 6-year-old boy in Texas has saved over 1,000 dogs from kill shelters across his home state in little over a year. So Roman McCon is an amazing project in the dogs that he's saved. Roman and his mother Jennifer added a new member to their family, a rescue dog named Luna. After the adoption event, Roman asked his mother why all the other dogs were still there. And Jennifer said they were also looking for new homes like Luna. And to his then 4-year-old mind, Roman heard, we need to find them homes. So he created Project Freedom Ride. Project Freedom Ride is an underground railroad for dogs, according to his mother Jennifer, that transports strays and other animals destined for euthanasia from Texas to homes in the Pacific Northwest. Roman and his mother started working with local animal shelters to help relocate dogs that would have otherwise been put down. Roman, in spite of his young age, has proved to be an integral part of the Project Freedom Ride. He's in charge of the site's marketing videos. He makes videos to showcase dogs that are available for adoption, including their personality, age, and why Roman thinks that they should be adopted. He also handles the phone calls to individuals who are interested in adopting one of the many rescues. To date, the pair has raised enough money to save more than 1,000 dogs, pairing them with families or placing them with rescue groups until they can be adopted. The group is funded exclusively through donations. Relocation and growth. So since the initial program started, Jennifer and Roman have relocated to Washington after Roman's father was deployed with the Navy. They then moved from Texas to the Pacific Northwest, and 31 dogs were taken with them, and they have not slowed down. 2 of the rescues have become part of the McCann family, and if you live in the Pacific Northwest or anywhere between Texas and Washington, you can reach out to Project Freedom Ride through its social media platforms, Project Freedom Ride on Instagram and Facebook. Both sites show the various dogs that are available for adoption. And they also list a potential pickup location for these animals. And if you would like to support, but you can't commit to adopting a dog right now, they are always on the lookout for donations. Like I said, the entire program is supported solely by donations to save more dogs. And Project Freedom Ride can always use more support. So it just goes to show that you can change the world no matter how young you are. Roman's request to save stray unwanted dogs has changed 1,000 furry lives and added a new member to 1,000 families. They are changing the way that we think about dog adoption and rescue, and all it takes is one person who's willing to fight for something that they believe in. A little bit of empathy goes a pretty long way in this world. So congratulations to Roman. I actually do have another story to share with you, but we're running out of time, so we're going to have to take a break. But when we come back, I'm going to tell you another nice animal story that happened before we move on. So we will get back to this when we come back from the break. And it's from a national park in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We'll talk about that when we get back.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about some positive animal stories, and we just have one more before we move on. So, Garamba National Park is a critical wilderness situated in northeastern Democratic Republic of Congo that is managed by a nonprofit organization, African Parks, in partnership with the DRC government's Institute Congolais pour la conservation de la nature. It is also one of Africa's oldest and most biologically significant parks. Garamba is the front line of the poaching crisis. In the 1970s, there were an estimated 22,000 elephants in the park, and today there are fewer than 1,300. The park is also home to 47 critically endangered Kordofan giraffe, the last remaining species in the DRC. Since assuming management of the park in 2005, African Parks has overhauled its law enforcement, outfitting and training rangers, working with communities, and implementing extensive programs to meet the threat of poaching. Specialist dog units have proved hugely effective in the prevention of wildlife crime, and UK-based wildlife conservation charity Explorers Against Extinction is delighted to announce their partnership with African Parks in order to assist with the introduction of a new working dog parks program in Garamba. The introduction of this canine unit will help protect the wildlife and offer support to the dedicated and courageous rangers who put their lives on the line every day. So the goal here, the construction of a kennel complex capable of housing a unit of 6 dogs, a dedicated housing compound for the handlers and unit guards, the purchase and deployment of 2 anti-poaching dogs, equipment provided for the 6 dogs and their handlers, ongoing veterinary maintenance expenses for the first 12 months, and 4 additional anti-poaching dogs will be deployed using funding available from the European Union. Subsequently, local dogs will be selected and trained, ensuring a sustainable unit with a rapid response time that can expand as required. It is a very exciting time as we open our Working Dogs program in Garamba National Park, said John Bennett, General Manager of the Garamba National Park. We see enormous potential in the current approach employed by our law enforcement division in adding the tremendous detection capability like that offered by Working Dogs will be a key addition to the park's overall law enforcement strategy and ability to confront illegal wildlife trafficking. We're grateful for the support of the EU and Explorers Against Extinction, enabling this to take place. So that is it for our animal section. And now, as world healthcare systems clamor to keep up with the medical supply demands amidst the outbreaks, and IKEA in Sweden has become an unexpected benefactor of the nation's biggest hospital. Earlier this week, employees at the Stockholm location were reportedly stunned to discover a stash of more than 50,000 medical face masks gathering dust on their warehouse. The store has purchased masks during the recent flu outbreak. Upon rediscovering the forgotten treasure, a trove of supplies, store logistics manager Johan Andersson immediately phoned in the Sahlgrenska University Hospital in Gothenburg, the largest hospital in the nation, and offered to donate the masks. They were over the moon and asked, "What? Wow, just come," Anderson told Reuters. Felt great in these times when you read about so much unpleasantness with coronavirus. And all that said, we should show some solidarity. I think it's important to do that. We're just happy to have been able to contribute something, he added. This is just one of the many positive stories. For instance, here's another similar one. As supermarket shelves all over the world are cleared of hand sanitizer and toilet paper amidst the COVID outbreaks, businesses are taking it upon themselves to share their wealth with businesses in need. Atlanta-based marketing firm Travelino Keller is just one of the companies that have been temporarily closed down during the quarantine. Storage closets filled with enough toilet paper for 1,000 employees. Their company decided to give away all of their toilet paper for free. The company has since launched the Toilet Paper Exchange, an employee-run initiative to distribute the toilet paper amongst the community through toilet paper tosses. Company employees have already given away heaps of toilet paper by hosting a drive-through giveaway, during which they maintain social distancing by hurling rolls through people's car windows. In Wisconsin, the Milwaukee-based McQuan Pizza Company has taken a similar approach by giving away free rolls of toilet paper with all their pizza deliveries. Our regular massive shipment is delivered. So for every large pizza you purchase, we'll give you a free roll of Cottonelle 2-ply toilet paper. If you need, just ask. The restaurant wrote on Facebook, if you need toilet paper rolls, are available for purchase for our cost of $1. Did you run out of toilet paper? If so, MPC's got your back. It says on Instagram, as always, we pride ourselves in being clean, sanitary, safe place to enjoy delicious food and family-friendly environment regardless of heightened levels of disease. We filled our bathroom soap pumps, gave all our surfaces an extra coat of disinfectant, working on paper towel dispensers as well. So if you need toilet paper, very desperate, and are around Milwaukee, you can purchase a limit of 6 for a cost of $1. Other restaurants from New York to San Francisco have also started up their own toilet paper exchanges, and they're hoping to inspire other people to take similar actions with these toilet paper shortages that have been from overstocking, people taking a little bit more than their share. We got to take a break. But we'll be back with more in just a few moments.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back. So before the break, we were talking about some restaurants doing some toilet paper exchanges. So if you need that, get the hookups, check out what your area, what restaurants are doing a toilet paper exchange if you're really at a loss. As many of us are right now. I know I am. So we'll see how long these last. And we have some more stories that are positive. So here's one. Dozens of celebrities are devoting their time, money, and attention to supporting food banks and charities amongst the nationwide shutdowns. This week in particular, Ryan Reynolds and his wife Blake Lively announced that they would be donating $1 million to Feeding America and Food Banks Canada. Ryan Reynolds, of course, being a Canadian, they've gone to both countries with their support. Reynolds encouraged his followers to follow suit and also to look after themselves during these times. Take care of your bodies and hearts. Leave room for joy. Call someone who's isolated and might need a connection. We're so grateful for Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively's extremely generous donation and for all the donations that we've been receiving. That comes from Dan Nisbet, the Vice President of Major Gifts at Feeding America. The Feeding America network of 200 food banks is working tirelessly to aid and provide meal assistance to our most vulnerable neighbors, children, the elderly, families struggling with food insecurity, and individuals facing job disruptions. Throughout our nation, during this unprecedented time, generosity like theirs will make all the difference. And Reynolds and Lively aren't the only ones to announce their donations this week. Pop star Sierra and Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson donated 1 million meals through Seattle's Food Lifeline. And Jimmy Fallon donated an undisclosed amount of money to Feeding America. Lady Gaga's makeup brand, House Laboratories, said that they would be donating to the Los Angeles and New York City food banks. And meanwhile, country musician Brad Paisley posted an Instagram video on how his free grocery store for the hungry in Nashville would be mobilizing to deliver food to the elderly. The guitarist will also be taking song requests during a live streamed performance. And let's see what else there is. So elsewhere on social media, Amy Adams and Jennifer Garner partnered with Save the Stories to read stories on social media in order to raise money for Save the Children and No Kid Hungry. Jimmy Fallon raised $20,000 for Feeding America after airing his first Tonight Show Home Edition while in quarantine with his wife shooting the camera. In the business department, Delta Airlines CEO Ed Bastian published a letter to his employees on how he would be foregoing 100% of his salary for the next 6 months in order to avoid layoffs. Pretty incredible story there. That's just so generous. So, what else do we have here? We got a couple of little Instagram posts. Here's one here that says, "This time has so many people from preschoolers to professionals working their tails off to perform, and now the games, the meets, the recitals, the productions are all shut down. The show must go on. Break out your oboes, torch song, run the palace, I don't care. Show us what you've been working on so we can show the world. Use hashtag #HeyJenLookAtMe because I want to see." So that's from Jennifer Garner. So if you have that, Save Us With Stories at Save Us With Stories. Spot and watch your favorite celebrities, read your favorite children's books. 30 million children in the United States rely on schools for food. Schools closures hitting the vulnerable communities hard, and hashtag Save the Children and hashtag No Kid Hungry are on the ground ready to serve. So that will help serve more school children. These funds make us sure that families will know how to find meals when the schools are closed. It also supports mobile meal trucks, food banks, and other community feeding partnership programs. Provides educational toys, books, worksheets, and supports out-of-school time programs to help kids make up for the lost time in the classroom. So if you can, they urge you to please give $10, texting SAVE to 20222, and that will help feed the children. So that's the hashtag Save with Stories. If you want to follow that hashtag, so you can see the efforts that Jennifer Garner and Amy Adams are going to here. And there are plenty of other celebrities that are also doing little uplifting stories, like Gal Gadot posted a video of many celebrities singing Imagine to uplift spirits. And various other celebrities are doing the same. So it's nice to see everyone kind of coming together. And trying to uplift each other's spirits in this time. And again, it is time for us to take a break But when we come back, we're going to talk about the medical updates when we return.
Pets bring such joy to our lives, and the GSMC Pets podcast is here to share in that joy. We'll tell stories of pets finding their forever homes, acting in unexpected ways, being helpful, or just being silly. Whether you love dogs, cats, llamas, reptiles, fish, or you've never met an animal you didn't like, the GSMC Pets podcast is for you.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about the efforts that celebrities are going to uplift people's spirits in these times. And now we're going to talk about the positive updates from the healthcare professional world. So, healthcare professionals may be able to dramatically speed up the testing process now that Israeli scientists have successfully demonstrated a technique for simultaneous screening up to 60 patient samples at a time rather than individually. Communities around the world are emphasizing the need for virus testing amidst the outbreaks. In Seattle, healthcare professionals are getting set up with drive-through test sites that allow patients to submit samples as little as 3 minutes, all without having to leave their vehicles. Meanwhile, a small town in northern Italy has reported 0 new infections since they blanket tested all 3,300 of the town's residents. Now, researchers at Technician Israeli Institute of Technology and Rambam Healthcare Campus have tested a method that will dramatically increase the current COVID-19 testing capacity using existing available resources. This method, known as pooling, enables simultaneous testing of dozens of samples. Its implementation has the potential to greatly accelerate the rate of testing and detection of COVID-19 infected patients in the population. The trial was completed in a matter of days, thanks to the support of the Ministry of Health, the collaboration between Technician and Rambam. Testing for COVID-19 is currently being conducted in Israel with the focus on people with specific symptoms. The current rate of testing is about 1,200 a day, and it does not allow for monitoring of asymptomatic symptomatic carriers in the population, which is actually vital to curb the epidemic. COVID-19 is diagnosed with PCR testing, which is common for virus monitoring. This test examines the presence of a unique genetic sequence of a virus in the sample taken from the patient. This test takes several hours, thus generating a bottleneck in identifying COVID-19 infected people in Israel and around the world. Today we receive approximately 200 COVID-19 test samples, and this is each day, and each sample undergoes individual examination, said Dr. Yuval Jeffen, director of Rambam Clinical Microbiology Laboratory. According to the new pooling approach we've currently tested, the molecular testing can be performed on a combined sample taken from 32 or 64 patients. That way we can significantly accelerate the testing rate. And only in those rare cases where the joint sample is found to be positive, then we can conduct individual testing for each of the samples. According to Professor Roy Kishnoi, head of the research faculty of biology, this is not a scientific breakthrough, but a demonstration of the effectivity of using the existing method and existing equipment and to significantly increase the volume of samples tested per day. It's done by pooling multiple samples into one test tube, even when conducted a joint examination of 64 samples where only one was a positive carrier. The system identified that there was one positive sample. Although there are some logistical challenges in implementing this method, we expect that it will greatly increase the volume of samples tested per day so that we can identify the asymptomatic carriers. This approach should reduce the chance of infection and flatten the infection curve. Director of Rambam Virology Lab, Moran Swart Cohen, estimates that implementing pooling in the final stage of the PCR test will make it easier for us to shorten the entire process and significantly increase the test rate. American Technical Society supports visionary education and world-challenging impact. Israel Institute of Technology, based in New York City, and the institution represent thousands of U.S. donors, alumni, stakeholders who invest in the Technicon's growth and innovation and advance critical research and technologies that serve the globe. Good. And now with the presence in these three countries, they can prepare for the next generation of global innovators. President says, President of the Technician, Professor Uri Saban, says, this experiment conducted by these researchers is complex, and under normal circumstances it would take months. It's a remarkable example of the mobilization of the outstanding team in this time of crisis. The initial experiment was completed in less than 4 days. This emphasizes the importance of a close relationship between medicine and engineering. War against coronavirus, they're calling it. Combat the spread of disease. Time to take a break.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
So we talked a lot about the advancements in the medicine world. And now for our final segment, we're going to do the positive things in today's history. So, happy 70th birthday to Juilliard-trained actor William Hurt, after making his film debut in the 1980 sci-fi film Altered States, for which he won a Golden Globe nomination. He starred with Kathleen Turner in the neo-noir movie Body Heat. He soon won an Oscar for Best Actor in Kiss of the Spider Woman, and received 2 Academy Award nominations for his lead performances in Children of a Lesser God, 1986, and Broadcast News in 1987. Often appearing on stage, Hurt won his first Tony Award for a nomination for Hurly Burly. He earned his 4th Academy Award nomination for A History of Violence, and won acclaim to Syriana, Mr. Brooks, and The Big Chill. In 2013, he was diagnosed with terminal pancreatic cancer, but got alternative treatment in 2018 that Hurt says saved his life. So some more good news in today's day in history. This is March 20th, by the way. The slavery novel Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin was first published in 1852. Fred Rogers, the musician, puppeteer, writer, producer, and Presbyterian minister who created and hosted the television series Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, was born in Pennsylvania in 1928. If you guys saw the Tom Hanks film that just came out, it was lovely. The United States Senate ratified a peace treaty with Japan and John Lennon married Yoko Ono in Gibraltar near Spain in 1969. Tunisia gained independence from France, 1956. Libby Riddles became the first woman to win the 1,135-mile Iditarod Trail sled dog race in 1985. The AIDS drug, AZT, became the first U.S.-approved treatment for AIDS to significantly alter the course of the illness and ended the notion that HIV AIDS is a death sentence in 1987. 22 states' attorneys settled a lawsuit against the U.S. tobacco industry, whose officials admitted marketing cigarettes to teenagers and agreed to warn on every pack that smoking is in fact addictive. Bertrand Piccard of Switzerland and Brian Jones of Britain completed the first non-stop hot air balloon voyage around the world in 1999. After years of Cold War tension, President Barack Obama became the first U.S. president to visit Cuba since 1928, further instilling diplomacy between the two countries in 2016. And on this day, in 1916, Albert Einstein published the general theory of relativity with a German scientific journal after wrestling it for nearly a decade. He finally proved the answer to a scientific problem about the relationship between space, time, matter, energy, and gravity, and totally changed the Newtonian physics in the process. As a consequence of Einstein's equations, it became clear that the space compromise is a single continuum whose shape can be bent or warped by gravitation. And happy 98th birthday to comedian, actor, and writer Carl Reiner from The Dick Van Dyke Show, which he created and wrote for, to a famous comedy bit, The 2,000-Year-Old Man. Reiner collected 12 Emmys over the 70-plus years and is that he was working as a writer, and he's still working today. Born in the Bronx, he is the father of actor-director Rob Reiner, and he is best friends with Mel Brooks. In 2000, Carl was honored with the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor. The next year, he played Saul in Ocean's 11, and later in the Ocean series, he published his memoirs. There was also a very, very sweet video that I saw the other day on the news with Mel Brooks' son on the other side of the glass from his father, Mel Brooks, where he was pleading with people to social distance, especially from their elderly family members, to protect them. And he was saying that, he could give it to his father, Mel, who could give it to his best friend, Carl Reiner. And that, they were some of the best comedians of all time, and just to caution against that. So with that, we've come to the end. So thank you for listening to the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review and rate the episode. That really helps us out a lot. Also, if you could please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, that would be great. So thank you so much, and have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network, from social media news to marketing news and even weird news. The GSMC Podcast Network has you covered. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast.